Hi everybody, how's it going? For those of you that aren't familiar with me, my name is Harstine, and thank you. And I'm a youth support worker right here at The Rock. And today I want to talk a little bit about how to recognize different types of bullying, and maybe to tell some parts of my story as well of when I was bullied myself. So, what makes up a bully? And how do we recognize that? When I was preparing for this, I looked up the definition of the word bully. Then I took a look at some of the similar words that the Oxford Dictionary lists beside bully. And those words are persecute, tyrannize, intimidate, coerce, and oppress. That's pretty strong language. And so when we picture like a stereotypical bully in our head, what might we be picturing? You know, it could be that it's the popular person in your life, someone that has all that popularity that you wish you had and just doesn't treat you quite right. It could be that maybe your villain is the jokester in your class or group or workplace, except none of the jokes they ever play on you is actually funny. And for others, it might really look like the picture that you see here of this bully from a popular, bully from a popular video game. And truth be told, for others, the bully may even look like myself. I'm a very big guy. I can be intimidating. I get it. And that's part of, as you'll learn, what helped hurt me during my suffering. So who am I? Well, this brings me to the first part of my story and that I'm sharing today. And in order to give important context, it is worth sharing with you that I was born intersex. And everyone's familiar with the two logos on this slide here. You got a female logo and the I guess that's a symbol for male. And so if you've never seen it before, that's what the logo for intersex people looks like, or the symbol. And it's kind of ambiguous, and it's done that way for a very good reason. There's a lot of different intersex conditions that are out there, and with very different life experiences that can go along with it. And so for me, I was born with partial androgen insensitivity syndrome, which basically is a long way of saying that my body can't properly use the testosterone that I naturally make. And so internally, I appeared to be male, and with the male reproductive system. However, externally, my genitals developed ambiguously, and so kind of means looks like male, kind of looks a little bit like female. But that was just the superficial sort of exterior look of my body at the time, and that was when I was born. So, because my genitals did not resemble what a typical male's is supposed to look like, according to, I guess, society, I don't know who made that up, but that's okay. Doctors made the suggestion to my parents that they perform a one-time surgery as an infant to make me appear fully male and function fully male. Unfortunately, reality turned out to be 10 surgeries by the time that I was 13 years old. And sadly, spoiler alert, those surgeries really didn't work. They made things worse, if anything. And I share this with you because I want to help raise awareness about people like me and the challenges that we can face. And we live in a society that often views sex, and not to be confused with gender in this case, in very binary terms, male or female. And for those of us that don't fit into these narrow boxes, it can be a very difficult and isolating experience. So this will lead me to my first part of the story. I've got two for you today, a video I'll show in a little bit. And this story is kind of the first time I experienced a bully in my life. And although I was only 6 years old when this occurred, it's still something that I can remember very clearly that happened to me. And maybe not every detail, maybe not everything, but more or less totally understand what's happening. And I want to tell you about an interaction I had with a nurse when I was probably around 6 years old that left a lasting impact on me. I was undergoing my 6th major surgery in my life to that point. And I remember, prior to my surgery, they took me and a few other kids into like an activity room in the hospital. This is before we underwent the surgery. And they took us into an activity room to do something that can help us cope with the trauma of going through surgery at such a young age. And so as part of our therapy, we were given these plain white dolls. And if you can look on this picture here, you can't really see they're right here. That's kind of what they look like. No discernible markings, they were just plain. And we were given the instruction by the nurses to decorate the dolls, kind of how we thought we looked. So either we're decorating them with markers, with clothing, with paint, and then we were instructed to bandage the area where we were going to have surgery. I guess this is an exercise to kind of help them, kids to understand what's happening to them and to kind of help themselves a little bit. And this story is important because it can really show you that bullies can be someone you least expect. It can be, and not every form of bullying is physical either. And these scenarios, the one that I'm talking about, can be really difficult to recognize. So, being a naive and innocent child, I followed the instructions and bandaged up the doll where I was going to have my surgery, in my genital area. The nurse leading the group walked over to me. She seemed confused, she seemed concerned, and she took my doll and looked at me and told me that I must never let anyone know where my surgery actually was. She took the doll and threw it in the garbage. She gave me a new doll, and this time I decorated it with a bandage on my knee because that's what the nurse told me to do. I was devastated, confused. I really didn't understand why I was being told to lie about my surgery. It was real to me. This is what's happening, and no one could have prepared me for this. So the nurse seemed really worried that anyone would see my doll, and her actions made me feel like I should be ashamed of my body and my existence. As an adult now, I can imagine all kinds of ways that a nurse may have reasoned with her actions in that moment to take the course of action that she took. And I can imagine, she might have been worried what the other kids think. She might have been worried about having difficult conversations with the other kids based on, passing the doll around and showing afterwards. But, however, this was really a moment of deep shame and confusion that I carried with me throughout my life. And just so you see, the picture here was actually I had fed in to an artificial intelligence creation program the information that I wanted it to display as an image in the kind of image that I wanted. And it was actually kind of, it was really, it brought me back. This was really similar to the kind of memory that I have in my head. It's very cool that we have the kind of technology today to do things like this, because I am not artistic at all.
That's cool.
But this part of my story really illustrates why it is so important to remember that bullies can be anyone. And bullying can occur in many different ways. And for me, that nurse oppressed me. We go back to those words earlier. She shamed me, she persecuted me. She was my first bully, and unfortunately, absolutely not my last. So what is a man with breasts? I don't know. If you can figure that out, let me know. In any case, when I went through puberty, I developed obvious female breasts. And this was again due to the intersex condition I was born with. So I was a developing man with big breasts. I was also an athlete during this time, which put me in some pretty vulnerable spaces. These places like locker rooms, football fields, gyms, The best way I can sum up those kinds of places was hyper-toxic masculinity defined. For someone like me, I really stood no chance. And it's worth mentioning, it wasn't until I was 20 that I underwent a double mastectomy to remove breasts. So I'm going to show you a clip. So one of the things that I do in my free time is I have a YouTube channel, and I'm very proud of this YouTube channel. I've started a web series there, which I continue to add to all the time. I think we're up at part 6 right now, and in that story is actually, the web series is called Trauma, Shame, and Resiliency, an Intersex story. And it just sort of illustrates my life growing up, and I kind of go with the years of my life as they pass, and what experiences I was left with, and memories that I had, and bullying that took place. And so if you're interested, please talk to me later and let me know, and I can give you the link to that channel and those videos if you're interested in watching them. They're pretty heavy, but they're real, and this happened to me, and it's not worth hiding anymore, because I don't need to feel shame. So in saying that, I'm going to play just a clip from the web series that I have, and it's a bit of an edited clip, but if you're curious and want to know more, I really encourage you to take a look and go visit my web series and take a watch. It's pretty good stuff. So in saying that, this particular clip is me talking about my bullying experience during this point in my life. It's a story about how someone can look like they can take care of themselves, as I was often accused of. It's a story of how society can fail someone. When you're as big as I've always been, nobody believes you when you're telling them that you're the one being bullied. That was very difficult. So, in saying that, Nate, play that. Thank you.
Hey everybody, my name is Stephen Harstine, and I have a story to tell. Now, these events begin to take place around 1997, when I was about 12 years old. Psychological abuse, mental anguish, physical suffering, name-calling, group malice, and ignorance. Put much more succinctly, bullying. Hatred is taught, bullies are made, and victims are alone. All through my puberty years, every single day the bullying continued, and I was left being outcast completely. Up until this point, I've lived as a boy. I've had many androgynous features, but I could generally pass as a boy, until now. Puberty has begun, and because I have this genetic mutation, my body is confused. It's making testosterone, but it's not using it. And I begin to develop very obvious breasts by the age of 11 or 12. Surely there's a solution. Surely I don't have to let this happen to me, right? After everything I've been through. So I go to the doctors, and by this time the bullying had already started. I was told that I had no choice, that this is who and what I am. There's nothing that can be done to help my newfound gender dysphoria and body dysmorphia. And of course, these terms weren't really used back then or understood. No mental health support was offered or recommended. Do you know what the doctor told me? She told me to wear larger size shirts, to layer my shirts and have a button up over top. That was my solution. Nothing about what to do in the male change room when having to change my gym shirt. No mention of how to handle any of the social interactions that I was about to navigate. I wasn't male, I wasn't female, I was completely alone. I was called horrible names. I had my breasts and nipples constantly fondled and poked and twisted. The boys all thought it was hilarious and so much fun that they can touch real breasts without the social stigma and consequences attached to, sexually assaulting a female. So in that way, I was sexually assaulted, often. So often that eventually I stopped fighting back. And unfortunately, this bullying meant that I didn't even want to go to school anymore. And up until that point in my life, I loved school, and I was really good at most subjects, but I couldn't take the pain every single day, so I skipped school. At first, I only skipped sometimes, but by the time I was in grade 9, it was a pretty regular occurrence. I couldn't take going to gym class and having to sit in the locker room and endure that abuse. I couldn't take going to class knowing that people were talking about me and what they're going to do to me or say about me. So now I'm hurting myself as much as others are hurting me. This video is heavy, and I wanted to say thank you for watching and listening to this. And in hindsight, I really do wish while I was going through this that I had even one person see me, even if one person stood beside me during these incidents, or reached out afterwards to tell me, hey, yeah, I know this is wrong, and I'm sorry that this happened. With that, if you're having problems with bullying, please reach out to somebody that you can trust, or anyone, reach out to somebody. Even if it's just me, you're not alone, and there is love and kindness in this world. You're a superhero for going through something like that and still having the strength to reach out for help. And you're a superhero for stepping up to help someone in need that is suffering from bullying. Be a superhero.
Thank you everyone for watching that. I really appreciate it. It's a pretty heavy testimonial. I understand that, but it's real. So I hope, I really hope that my story can help illustrate that appearances are not everything. I hope that it can help us recognize when harm may be taking place and ensure that support is offered. I stand here today not because of what happened to me, but in spite of it. You want to, Nate, if you could move that slide along, I just can't seem to, there we go, one more time. Next page if you can. That's great. So just before we move into our question and answer, I just wanted to say thank you again. And the overall message with what I'm standing here today in front of you kind of talking about really is that we should be there for each other. And we're all in this world together. We're all fighting. And, there's, like I said before, there's a lot of love and a lot of kindness. And if you can help, and be a superhero. Thank you.